guys? We're Cassie and Sara, and today we're talking about the horrors that plagued Eastern State Penitentiary.
With its looming, gloomy, high stone walls, corridors, and stark cells, Eastern State Penitentiary first opened its doors in 1829 and used to house thousands of hardcore criminals and is considered to be one of the most haunted locations in the world. This prison was designed to hold 253 prisoners, and each prisoner had their own cell for them to serve out their sentence. The harshest punishment in the prison was solitary confinement, which was meant to help criminals find penance, remorse, and salvation. In reality, though, it drove prisoners insane. Throughout its 142-year history, this prison was full of suicide, madness, disease, murder, and torture, making it easy to imagine the spirits of troubled souls left behind to roam its abandoned halls.
This prison was basically just like one really big prison with like tons of corridors, and it was all like for solitary confinement. So
yeah, like prisons, like we know they have like roommates, like cellmates. They were just by themselves, like no communication whatsoever, just by themselves, which means, you know, penance, remorse, and salvation. That's what they got to do.
Yeah. And it wasn't like they were by themselves sometimes, you know, and they were like with people every now and then. No, like legit.
All the time.
Just you and your thoughts. You guys will see as we like move on and like talk about some more like how crazy this place actually is and like what went on here.
Construction began in 1822, and it was expensive to bring the groundbreaking design to completion. While building the cells, the original idea was to only build a small doorway which was big enough just to slide food in and out of, but that proved impractical. So in the middle of construction, they built bigger metal doors that were covered by a heavy wooden door to filter out noise. Some people say that the doors were built small so prisoners would have a harder time getting out, minimizing an attack on an officer. Others have explained that the small doors forced the prisoners to bow while entering their cell. This design is related to atonement and ties to the religious and inspiration of the prison. The prisoners' cells were made of concrete with a single glass skylight which is supposed to represent the eye of God, suggesting to prisoners that God is always watching them. The original design for the building was 7 one-story cell blocks, but by the time they completed cell block 3, the prison was already over capacity. Cell blocks 14 and 15 were hastily built due to overcrowding, and they were built and designed by the prisoners. Cell block 15 was for the worst behaved prisoners, and the guards were gated off from there entirely. Isolation was impressed on prisoners even when they left their cells for work, so when they went to leave, they would have to wear heavy masks that prohibited communication with one another. This loneliness and isolation was oppressing to the prisoners, and for some of them, it was too much to bear, and many of them took their own lives. The first thing that pops out of me is that single skylight that is meant to like freak them out, I think, saying God is watching you all the time. Oh, heck no, God is not watching me all the time. I'd be skirting around and be like, God ain't watching me today.
You're just like skirt around your everything. Nope, not today.
Just like
they kind of wanted to like scare the fear of God into you in like a really kind of weird way. Like it was very extreme, like with the whole like cell or skylight like symbolizing God watching you and like having to bow when they enter their cells. Like that's very extreme. Like I can kind of understand like making it small so it's hard for them to escape, which also like that's weird. But like
I'd be like, you're not gonna make me bow.
Yeah, but like the whole like you need to bow to enter, like very
cultish.
Yeah, like that freaks me out a bit. And like I don't know, just like how forced like isolation was, and like I get this prison was like for some of the worst of the worst criminals, but like
I feel like that's
like passes like punishment and goes in just like torture and like like a really wrong way. I don't like that. Back to the whole isolation thing. You guys saw the picture, but they would have to wear a heavy mask when they left. Like literally, I'm pretty sure it's just eye holes. Which like I feel like that's so crazy. Like again, I know it's for the worst of the worst, but like
I haven't seen the picture yet, but I'm just like I'm picturing it.
It literally is just eye holes.
It scares me a little bit. But like to a point, it's like scaring me to a point where I just laugh. I just imagine they're all in a line with like the chains on their
that's exactly what I imagine too.
And I'm just in guards just standing there just watching them pass by, and
that would be terrifying.
Dude, if I was a guard, I'd be laughing my ass off. I'd be just looking at them. I can't help it.
I think it might be like a little funny, which is like probably not good to say, but I also think it'd be terrifying. Like, these are the worst criminals. Like, just imagine, like, these are, like, so this person could probably just snap your neck and, like,
yeah, I know.
And, like, have absolutely no remorse, doesn't care.
But, yeah, like, that'd probably be, like, my second thought. Like, it's terrifying, but I'd just be staring at them. Like, I wouldn't be able to take my eyes off of them because they're those masks. Eastern State Penitentiary had a very famous inmate who was none other than Chicago gangster Al Capone. He served 8 months for carrying a concealed deadly weapon, and while he was there, he had the nicest cell. He had a desk lamp, paintings, and a cabinet radio. While he was incarcerated, he complained that he was haunted by the ghost of James Clark, who was a victim of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago. This massacre was a result of a gang rivalry, and Al Capone led one side of it. Some say solitary confinement can play tricks on the mind. Herbert Smith was a famous warden in the prison and ruled with an iron fist during the 1920s and 30s. While he was at the prison, the state sentenced prisoners to Eastern State Penitentiary if they needed his fierce reform tactics. These punishments were so harsh that they can make you shiver without seeing a ghost. One punishment is where inmates were dunked in bathwater and then hung out on a wall in winter until ice formed on their skin. A second punishment was the mad chair, which bound inmates so tight that their circulation was cut off and later resulting amputation. The third punishment was the iron gag, in which inmates' hands were tied behind their back and strapped to an iron collar in their mouth so that any movement caused the tongue to tear and bleed profusely. And lastly, the hole, which was a dark underground cell where there was no light, no human contact, no exercise, no toilet, and little food and air. The prison closed in 1971 and is considered to be one of the most haunted places in America by several sources. A bunch of paranormal researchers visit this place every year and report that it's a hub of otherworldly activity. You can also visit this place, and there are stories of eerie experiences by visitors, staff, guards, and inmates that have confirmed each other since the 1940s.
This place, terrifying. Like, again, past the whole punishment thing and straight into torture. Like, so they had the dunk people in the bathtub, hang them out on the wall till ice formed on their skin.
Like, not killing them, but just to, like, have them in pain. And then they'll pull them back in and thaw them out.
Which they would have frostbite, and then, like, it turns into infection.
Yeah,
and all that,
I think it also said, like, some people had to get, like...
Amputated. Which you would, yeah. The mad chair, which you would bind them up so tight until they lose their circulation, then they would have to cut their arms and legs off.
So, like, yeah, it's like trying to picture it. So their hands are tied behind their back to a collar, so it'll come up like this, and then it's, like, to their tongue. So if they, like, move their...
That's the,
Oh, that's the iron gag.
That's the gag. But, I mean, kind of like the mad chair, like, so they would have been strapped just, like, really tightly.
Yeah, you know? and then sometimes it results in amputation, which is, like...
Which is crazy. And then leading into the iron gag,
which I was just talking about. Like, hands behind their back, so straps probably come up here and then connected to their tongue, and if they move their arms,
if they're moving too much, it basically, like, scissors into their tongue and cuts it off. Is really inhumane, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like, again, like, I know they're the worst of the worst criminals, but I feel like it goes way past punishment and straight into torture.
Yeah.
Like, which I don't know how that was allowed, but at the same time, during these times, there was a ton of, like, crazy things going down in, like, different facilities that, like, should never have been allowed. This was one of them.
One of the most legendary tales comes from Gary Johnson, who helps maintain old locks at the prison. In the 1990s, when he was at the prison, he opened a lock in cell block 4 when he said a force gripped him so tightly that he was unable to move. He described a negative, horrible energy that exploded out of the cell. He said tormented faces appeared on the cell's walls, and that one form in particular beckoned to him. For being haunted, this prison is known for some creepy things. Cell block 12 is known for echoing voices and cackling. Cell block 4 for seeing visions of ghostly faces, and in cell block 6 for seeing shadowy figures darting along the walls. Many people who have visited or worked at the prison have reported seeing a silhouette of a guard in one of the towers, hearing footsteps, hearing somebody cry, and hearing whispers. Although executions were not carried out at the prison, it was home to its fair share of murders. At least 2 guards were murdered, as well as many inmates, and hundreds of others died from disease and old age. The grounds are haunted with the spirits who met their end at Eastern State Penitentiary. There's this guy who takes care of...
Kind of like a janitor, so to speak.
He takes care of it, but...
This poor guy.
A spirit or a shadowy figure beckoned him.
Dude, that's when
cell block 4. And when he opened up that door, Darth Vader just immediately.
That's when you say, see ya, and you're out. Like, this poor guy, like, could you imagine, like, you're just walking around this place, I'm assuming at night, maybe not.
I don't know.
But, like, all of a sudden you're just, like, yanked or, like, whatever.
You open a door and all of a sudden.
Like, no. No.
Like, I just pictured Darth Vader standing there.
Why Darth Vader?
I don't know. He's like wearing black, and it just the force grips him, and you know Darth Vader chokes people without touching them. So I'm just like,
I mean, I get it. I just think like that being someone who works there, like especially after the inmates were there and everything, it would be terrifying.
Oh yeah.
So many people died and like experienced so many awful things there that of course it's gonna be haunted.
Yeah. To be honest, I'd rather work on the Queen Mary than in this place.
Sure, me too. This place is much sketchier. Like Queen Mary, don't get me wrong, it's sketchy, but this place like slightly satanic. I would like in a weird way, like
cults all
cultish.
around. Cults all around.
Not a big fan of this place, but I think there's probably definitely a ton of activity here. If people ever wanted to go and like check it out.
Could you imagine just walking in, like looking around ghost hunting, and all of a sudden you see the iron gag, and I'm like, oh my god, it still exists.
No, thank you. I mean, who knows what you would find there?
Right.
Like, I don't know like what type of things are still preserved there, but it would be very cool to go check it out. Overall, I really, really like this video. I think that it's very intriguing. It's really interesting. Also really nasty. Like, just the fact of like what people had to go through here. Yes, again, for the 1,000th time, I know that they were like awful criminals, but like I still don't know that anyone deserves to be tortured like that. But I think it's really interesting to kind of like hear of these places because honestly, like in history class in school, in college, like you don't hear about these places.
No.
Like these places that were doing crazy things.
Yeah.
Which is cool and also really gross.
I like videos that are like
A little more gruesome.
Gruesome.
More, like,
it's not gory, but like
you like things that are gory, but more like
disturbing.
You're just like, what the heck? Like, why would somebody do that? I think those are the types of things that you are interested in, which I am too. I think it definitely keeps you like on the edge of your seat, and it makes you really interested to hear about it. So I think that this is like a good one. I just like the feeling of being scared. Yeah, it's like why. It kind of makes you question like why would someone ever do anything like this? Yeah. You know, and you're like, ooh, that's kind of like weird. It's like, why would you do that? But I like it. Yeah, so I think that this video is definitely a good one. Yeah, one of my favorites, I think. So if you like this video about Eastern State Penitentiary, make sure you hit this next video to see something similar. We will see you guys next Friday. Peace!